What's up, Cowboy Nation? Steve Leslie, YSNLive.com, your home of the Chaney Cowboys. Thursday night at Hackett's Lounge. Thanks to Dan Hackett again for all his support for the Chaney football team all season long. Joined by head ball coach, Coach Antram. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, appreciate you.
I said it gets a little darker every week, but first things, we're over here now. We're undefeated on this side over here now, so it's all good.
We're back.
No, all serious. No, I get a chance to call YSU games. These guys were all in the box with me, Richie, Romo, Quinn. That's one of the most physical football games I've ever called. And it's that we're up from a field standpoint. Those are two really good football teams.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great high school football game. I'm happy that we played as physical as we did. Obviously, Ursuline did, but the guys weren't really shell shocked by it. You know what I'm saying? They kind of maybe our levels stepped up to that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll go back to you saying that. That was when we sat here last week. You were concerned that can we be that physical as they are? And there's no doubt in my mind that both teams can be physical. Playoff atmosphere, obviously. D3 Region 9, we know what that's like.
Yes.
Is there a potential for a rematch? Absolutely, but I think the three teams from our area in the region are as good as anybody, and it's a credit to all of you guys to play one another and get that experience for these kids to have before you even get into the playoff format. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, obviously somebody's going to get out of our region and be able to represent our area, and you know, hopefully it's one of us three. Prefer it to be us, but there's good football right here.
When you go back to that game, after you're able to watch it with the staff, what do you take out of that? Mistakes, obviously. When I've talked with Coach Reardon, I've talked with TJ Parker, I've talked with everybody I talked to that has gotten a loss. When you watch film as a staff and as a team, nobody ever wants to lose, but I think you learn a lot more in a game like that from seeing that these are some of the things we did and why we lost, and we could correct those.
Right. Yeah, we better, you know, if we want to be on the other end of those type of games. But, you know, obviously for us, penalties was number one. I think we had 2 in the first half, 13 in the second half, regardless of what's going on in between the whistles. If you set yourself up with that, you know, it's going to be hard to be successful. Ursuline did a great job with limiting us, you know, offensive plays. I think we had 44 snaps. That's our quarterback sneak, and penalties. We had a 1st and 36.
You
know, they got the onside kick. We had 2 kick returns, which kind of limited us offensively, snap-wise also, but we'll take those. But, yeah, I mean, number one, penalties for sure. And, you know, we did play physical, but we got to just embrace that environment and that atmosphere as a whole and, you know, learn and play the 4 quarters.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind, excuse me, that you're going to learn. There's no question about that. I thought your defense stood up really well. When you go look at the differential in plays, that's a long time for a defense to be on the field with their skill guys and Lynch running the football and their big linemen. I thought the biggest thing for me calling it and watching it was third down conversions. They were really good.
Yeah.
Whether it be a penalty or there were a lot of 3rd and 7s that they were able to make plays. When you only have that so many plays as an offense, that has to take its toll.
Yeah.
From being into the game and a fluid rhythm of the game. Right. There were a lot of times where I'm calling the game and it was like 10, 15 minutes that your offense hasn't been on the field.
Yeah, if they extend drives like that, you know, converting 3rd and short, 3rd and long, whatever it is, you know, and you're able to keep an offense on the field, it's hard to win that game.
But special teams for you were outstanding. I mean, they you know, people on the outside will say, why were they kicking it to those guys? They really weren't kicking it to them. They're pooching it, and your skill guys are making plays. What's the biggest thing you take from it?
Like I said, number one, penalties. We got to learn from that.
How do you work on? Is that something you work on in practice? Can you work on? It's got to be hard to do.
Coach Dot definitely got the D line with some mental toughness drills this week, that's for sure. But just I think a lot of that's just
that just an excitement just to jump off sides? I want to make a play.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's what it comes from, but you got to be more disciplined than you are excited. We talk about that with our kids.
No, I get that, but not that I'm trying to stick up for your kids, but
they'll do that for themselves.
If you, how do I even say that? If you can't be excited in 3rd and short in that game, then you probably shouldn't put on a uniform and play high school football.
We don't want to line up and be passive.
No,
but
exactly.
Line up and
I get you, but
and fire off the ball.
That crowd, for me, took me back to my youth a little bit of how football was around here when the place was packed. A lot of people there. Rayen Stadium, South Stadium. Those are that a lot of us remember. And I thought both teams did really well to settle in and adapt to that atmosphere. I really do. I saw two teams that wasn't a whole lot of talk from what I saw. When guys got hurt, they all kneeled down. They went over to check on somebody. Pretty clean football game.
Yeah, it was. And like, you're talking about how the kids get along and stuff. A lot of those guys after the game shaking hands, talking to each other, and that's great. It's all Youngstown when it comes to, end of the game, but definitely the 4 quarters we want to win.
Yeah, I know you want to win it, but I was talking. I had Isaac Lucas on and Landon Charles the other night, and they said, Coach, I was sore for 3 days after that. I mean, that's the collisions and the quality football players that Youngstown got to watch on a Saturday night was fun to watch. I mean, you got guys on both sides of the football on both teams that are talented individuals that a lot of fans were able to see because it was a Saturday night. But when I go to that with you, that makes this week hard.
Yeah, it does. Playing a physical game like that on a Saturday, it doesn't just change our last week's practice schedule up, but it changes this week's also. And you gotta get your bodies recovered before you can progress a whole lot. So it's been a little different this week also.
How do you? I love with Coach Antram, Coach's Corner here at Hackett's. Cannot thank Dan Hackett enough for all he does for the Chaney Cowboys. My crew's in there eating some wings, so it's all good. We're in good shape. You said something. It is a 2-week thing.
Yeah.
The week of and the week after is like there's not enough days in the week, is there?
No, not enough days in the week, not enough hours in the day. It's hectic.
All right, so after it clears and you get ready for this week, the thing that I noticed before we get into your ball game this week, I was impressed with them after the game. I really was. I thought I saw number one disappointment, which you should be. That's what you play the game for. But I was able to watch you talk to them in a group, and I was impressed that they, to me, seemed like they get it. I mean, this is a football team that hasn't been able to taste a situation like that in a couple of years.
Right.
Is that okay to say? Did you see that in them?
I was happy with, our attitudes and our thought process after the game. We kind of started that when we called the last time out. We talked about everything. We knew, clockwise, Ursuline was going to be able to take a knee and run it out. We made sure nothing crazy happened.
And that can happen in a big time atmosphere. I mean, it happens in college games. It happens in pro games. I was impressed with both teams, the way they handled themselves, shaking hands after the game and moving on, because in my opinion, they all understand that there's probably going to be a round 2 somewhere. If both teams do what they're supposed to do in a Canfield, obviously somebody's got to play somebody in a 16-team region. But now you play Harvey, 4-2, Chaney Nation. This is no gimme.
Right.
On the road after a tough game. How's it been?
It's been a good week of practice. Like I said, we changed our Monday schedule up a little bit, just to recover physically. But we had a good offensive week, good defensive week. And our focus, like you kind of hit on it after the game. That was our talk, and that really the kids started before I did. Learn from this. Let's move on. Let's get back on track. And we're still going to preach the one day at a time, one game at a time, and Painsville's our next one tomorrow night. Yeah, that's going to be a good ball game. We'll have it for you on YOUNGSTOWNlive.com. Tell everybody a little bit about Harvey. It's a good football program. They've had some really good football teams. They play a lot of teams from our area, I understand. Talk about them a little bit. 4-2. I think they're averaging 30-some points a game.
Good tailback, if I'm remembering correctly.
They got
Okay.
a good tailback. They had a receiver graduate, but they're athletic. They're athletic. You know, what they've shown on film this year is 7 or 8 man box, man coverage on the outside.
Well, we like that. Then Jonesy could be able to flip it up over the top to some of our guys. That's a good thing.
So.
How do I phrase this? Does playing someone like that from out of town, a good football team in a game that you can't just say we're going to go win, that has to help. Yeah, that'll get their attention, I'm sure, when you get there.
I think, you know, we always try to focus on us, and
sure,
with our kind of lack of knowledge of them, you know, or
it helps.
Familiarity, like, yeah, it helps. Like, just focus on us and get back to where we want to be. So, you know, that's what we're going to do. And because of that, we might have to make some adjustments as we go, you know, scheme wise, but I think our guys are focused and ready to do that.
Well, they got the right guy in Coach Antram to get this team right back on track. Coach's Corner Thursday night. Hackett's Lounge, cannot thank them enough. My boy Quinn's over here eating his chicken tenders and fries. I've already had my wings, so Coach, I'm good for the night. What's a big key for you? For this team to get over that hurdle, fast start, obviously, I'm sure you'd love to see. Obviously, you'd like to get up big and do that. But I would have to say quick start.
Yeah, definitely quick start because of, you know, just playing a physical game, long bus ride, that stuff. You know, we need to come out ready to go and get moving early.
Well, there's no doubt they're going to get moving early. Painsville Harvey, Friday night at Painsville. We'll have it for you on YSN. Coach Keys, obviously, we talked, eliminate some of the penalties, I'm sure.
Definitely, that's number one.
Well, number one is penalties. Yep. Number two, hit some big plays on offense.
Yep, big plays on offense and take their big plays away because they're athletic and they've popped some big ones.
Yeah, I don't believe that, so I'm going to say we're going to hit some big plays. I'm going to be able to watch it into Fargo, North Dakota, but the biggest thing for me to see this team get over the hurdle is, you know, I talk with you all the time, mannerisms. I love what I saw here when I watched them walk in tonight. You can't tell
they're the same.
That they are the same, and I think in high school football for a city school, that is a huge thing for them, that they've kind of put that game on the back burner and are ready to play today. So from all of us at YSN, I know I'll be watching. I wish you nothing but the best. Appreciate all the time that you and Johnny do getting these guys over here. I know Dan loves it. A lot of football would be played for the Chaney Cowboys. There's no question about that, fans. I'm not one of those. Do you look at those computer rankings? I'll be honest. I peek at them after the week's over, but to me, they're so hard to determine.
Yeah,
like who's 2, who's 5. Yeah. It's such.
I'll click through and see who's playing who. Right. You get a feel for
where people are at.
Yep.
But you don't pay attention.
Rank-wise,
Chaney, we're here. If we could do that, you're not one of those. You don't pull the pen and pad out and say, this is our 2 cursor points and yet. But
we'll win our games and it'll
I agree with that. And I think a lot of area people get caught up in we want to be here, we want to do that. Obviously for you, finish in the top 4 and play at home. That's
right. Yep.
And you're in great position to do that with the schedule we have remaining. A Harvey, who's a good team with 4 wins, a Warren Harding, who's a step up, which is no matter what their record is.
Exactly.
So everything, Chaney Nation, I'm saying, is right out in front of them. A great football game at Rayen Stadium. Maybe another matchup with an Ursuline with a Canfield. I'm sure those will be the same type of football games. But go over there, represent Youngstown Friday night. We wish you nothing but the best.
Will do.
All right.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.